I'm Aaron Fawn, and I'm in Maine on a trip for life.
I believe our future depends powerfully on how well we understand this cosmos, in which we float like a mote of dust in the morning sky.
So far, we have traveled together from the lovely towns in the interior of Maine to the ever-changing coast of Acadia National Park and Kennebunkport. Now we will finish our journey in the prosperous coastal towns of Scarborough and Portland before I come to my conclusions as to why Maine is so happy. Bidding Biddeford goodbye, I started my journey to Portland, Maine's largest city. But on the way, jonesing for coffee, I stopped in Scarborough to get some joe. Turns out, I had some new friends to make. What makes you happy to live in Maine?
Well, what I like about living in Maine is that you can get up in the morning, and if it's a nice day, you can go kayaking, you can go hiking, you can go camping, you can go fishing.
Or you can go into Portland and go to a cool coffee shop or
you can go shopping, you can go to museums, you can go to the beach, you can go to the mountains, you can, within a half an hour, you can pretty much do anything you want.
So it's sort of the meeting of the culture and the environment that really attracts you to this place.
Yeah, it does.
Having spent more than a week traveling through Maine, it was with some regret that I found myself at the last stop on my journey, the lovely city of Portland, Maine. Now, Portland may be the largest city in Maine, but that doesn't mean it's a large city. Not by any means. There are less than 65,000 people living there. But even so, it has many of the benefits of a much larger city, due to its long history, its great traditions, its beautiful architecture, and its good food. Indeed, there are many well-planned public spaces in Portland of the sort you normally don't even find in much larger cities. I found the great, laid-back attitude of the people of Maine to be well typified by Portland. And the great architecture, the beautiful buildings, the wonderful public art, it all worked together to complement the beautiful city. Unfortunately, I came in on a Sunday, so not much was open, and trying to find a good place to eat was somewhat difficult. But in the end, I found myself at a place that many people had recommended from all over the state, Becky's Diner. Now, Becky's Diner might be simple, but that doesn't mean it isn't great. I would suggest you try their chowder if you stop in. What is it that makes you happy to live here in Maine?
So I moved here from Philadelphia originally, and I like that there's like trees and grass around. That's kind of pretty nice. It's a nice feature of Maine that I enjoy. It also kind of feels like, I don't know, like you're kind of in an area where there's not a lot of people, so you're kind of like a little bit more free. You can stretch out and do what you want to do, and there's not as many people looking over your shoulder, I guess.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense.
Sure. So, yeah, that's good. I do like to go outdoors. I went kayaking for the first time. I like to bike. There's a ton of bikers. And people in Maine, there's usually always a kayak attached to the top of a car, which is pretty cool. And I've never seen that anyplace else. So people are actually like really into it, and actually like to share their outdoors with you instead of all the other people that are kind of like, check out my super crazy exciting bike, and nobody knows what I'm talking about.
What is it that makes you happy to live here in Maine?
Well, I like the diversity in Maine. I like how we have a little bit of everything. The people, the weather, the water, the mountains. And I think a lot of the reason why most people here are happy is because it's kind of a secret to the United States. You know, people don't generally think of Portland, Maine as a vacation destination, or they might never have even heard of it if you're from another country, but a lot of people come here and they love it.
I haven't lived anywhere else besides Maine. I'm new to this area, but I'm originally from a little bit farther north. I don't know, I just like the people here. They're more down to earth, I think, than other places that I've been.
What makes you happy to live here?
I guess I've always, probably because I grew up here. My family's always been in Maine, and I went to school in Boston and decided I didn't really like, other than going to school down there, just to be there. So I don't know, Maine. It's people are decent to each other for the most part. There's a lot to do. We go out boating in the summer and I ski in the winter, and I do like the seasons, and I especially like this year when we actually have a spring. That's the one thing Maine usually lacks.
I'd never been in Maine before, and I'm looking forward to coming back again in the future, because Maine is a beautiful state with many beautiful people in it. But as to what has made the people of Maine so happy, I really have to rely upon what the people themselves have told me. Some people have some theories of their own.
A lot of people in Maine tan, and they go to the tanning salons, and tanning beds give you the same effect. They give you that feel of euphoria,
Yeah.
so it makes people feel better.
What is it that makes you happy to live here in Maine?
I don't know any other way to live.
Having traveled through Maine, what conclusions have I come to as to what makes them so happy? One of the main reasons is the culture of Maine.
I like the fact that Maine is part of like New England, but it's close to Boston and Massachusetts, or at least New York. So you can go down and like to the big city, or you can have the country life. It's like the best.
Just that there's no crime. It's peace and quiet, and you can walk around at night without being afraid of anything.
Yeah, I think people are really friendly.
It's laid back, it's not fast paced, and you can get just about anything here. It's pretty diverse, great crowd of people, people are friendly.
People genuinely are slightly more in control of government, of everything, because we still have town meeting structure.
I went to school in Boston and decided I didn't really like, other than going to school down there, just to be there. So I don't know, Maine. It's people are decent to each other for the most part.
Lack of traffic. I've tried to drive around Boston, and that is absolutely horrific, and I get angry really quick.
Yes.
So maybe lack of traffic. I don't know. It's laid back. It's a slower pace of life, I guess.
They probably are safer. There's less crime. You know, Bangor's like the 9th safest city in the country to live in. You know, kids can ride their bikes to their friends' homes. I mean, there's, you know, when we had the ice storm in 1998, the entire state was basically shut down for days, if not weeks, and there was no crime. You know, and people were using the radio, the Voice of Maine radio, which is the Rush Limbaugh right-wing radio station. His public radio was like iced in and they couldn't get the tower. They were using this radio as a means of communicating to people, you know, so like little old ladies were calling and saying that their roofs were leaking and this was their address, and they were giving like their phone numbers and their addresses out to the radio, you know, to the general listening public. And people were showing up, you know, and taking care of each other. So there's a strong sense of security. There's a strong sense of we know how to take care of ourselves.
The people here are much friendlier than they are in other states. I don't know if that's because of the removal from urban atmosphere or because there's something of a barrier from other states and it's all the trees or something. What goes around comes around.
It's just a really good sense of camaraderie, and just we're all. It sounds so cheesy, but it's kind of like we're all in it together. Like we're all in the same boat. I lived in a city for a few years, and it's definitely like, yeah, people are ruder, always more in a rush, and everything here is very kind of laid back. It's really nice to come home to that.
A little bit more laid back. You can actually tell the difference of people who come, you know, say from Massachusetts. You can just immediately tell they're a little different. They're just a little more high-strung, and people, it's kind of like the Jamaica of the East Coast in a way.
Well, Maine's a really liberal state, and I revel in that.
Maine is a very special place, but all of it was built by the people, and that's really what made the happiness kind of perpetuates itself.
Kind of like a little bit more free. You can stretch out and do what you want to do, and there's not as many people looking over your shoulder, I guess. People in Maine, there's usually always a kayak attached to the top of a car, which is pretty cool. And I've never seen that anyplace else, so people are actually like really into it.
But the culture of Maine didn't arise in a vacuum. It developed in a very unique environment, and it turns out that the people of Maine rather like the environment as well.
There's a lot of things to do. You have like cities like Portland, but then you have the coast like York, and you can go to the beach. But then there's lots of different activities. You can do like hiking and fishing, and it's very outdoorsy.
Yeah, I think people are really friendly. Even though it's kind of like in the wild, especially up Maine. I haven't been there, but you know, not too many people around to make it crowded like in the city. So, you know, yeah. I love a state that has 4 seasons.
Well, the weather, seriously. I enjoy actually rainy day. Not every day, but you know, it's not every day in Maine.
Indeed.
Except a couple of years ago, maybe.
Last night I just went fishing. I caught a big brook trout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
can just do like anything, pretty much.
I like living in Maine because like it has the best of all the seasons. Like all the seasons are extreme. The summer is really hot and the winter is really cold.
I like that there's like trees and grass around. That's kind of pretty nice. It's a nice feature of Maine that I enjoy. I do like to go outdoors. I went kayaking for the first time. I like to bike. There's a ton of bikers.
The people, the weather, the water, the mountains.
There's a lot to do. We go out boating in the summer and I ski in the winter, and I do like the seasons.
The 4 seasons make me happy because with winter I can always anticipate summer coming around, and with moderation of seasons maybe it keeps one on their toes. I don't know.
We talked about the air. Yeah. We talked about the water. We talked about the beauty.
I like the way the seasons change all the time in Maine. I like having it going into the next season. I like the people of Maine. I like living on the coast.
You can get up in the morning, and if it's a nice day, you can go kayaking, you can go hiking, you can go camping, you can go fishing.
Or you can go into Portland and go to a cool coffee shop or
you can go shopping, you can go to museums, you can go to the beach, you can go to the mountains, you can, within a half an hour, you can pretty much do anything you want.
So what can we learn from the people of Maine, and how can we as a country become a happier place? Well, I would suggest that we can start by developing a culture of resiliency where we can rely upon one another. And also, if we can embrace the environment that we're in, regardless of how bad the weather might be, we might find that in the end we're much happier with it than we ever were before. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of Maine. They've taken a place which can be very harsh and unforgiving and turned it into their home. They've turned it into a place to love and to a place that they cherish. If we can do that as a people, then perhaps all of us can be as happy as the people of Maine.
The sky calls to us. If we do not destroy ourselves, we will one day venture to the stars.